Welcome back, one and all, wherever in the world you may be. I'm RP Soriano, and with me once again is the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Robert Davis. How are you this week, my friend?
Present and accounted for. I'm doing great. How about you, Raphael?
Hey, man, no complaints at all. Life is good. All is well. I'm still riding high from that interview that we did last week with Katie Sullivan, man. I have to tell you, I was just completely I was blown away. I mean, I think she
Yeah.
really, really demonstrated why it is so important for leaders to understand their family background and their family history. And I think she just articulated all of those reasons beautifully.
I will be I'm gonna be honest with you. I got locked on the fact that her clients are super rich, and I started to obsess with how I could become super rich. And now I'm all discouraged because I'm not super rich. But she did share off a lot of awesome information that I would really encourage all of our listeners and viewers to go back and check out. She is a phenomenal leader, and you can learn so much by tapping into what she shared.
Yeah, so if you missed that interview, be sure to visit us or visit the website www.unboxedtolead.com. If you go to our blog page, you can find the interview there. It's entitled Interview with Katie Sullivan. Hopefully, you'll get something out of it and not be obsessing over being super rich like my illustrious co host was. So, before we dive in, I just want to remind everyone to please like, share, and subscribe to the broadcast. Also, be sure to follow all of our social pages and sign up for our newsletter so you never miss any of the content. And you also get updated on any specials that we may offer. So let's dive into our topic for today, Robert. We're going to discuss the idea or discuss the topic of mastering effective leadership communication. And I think we all can appreciate just how complex and challenging being able to communicate effectively can be. There's not only what comes from us when we're communicating, but there's the way that the receiver actually interprets what we're trying to communicate, whether it's verbally or whether in email or whatever the case may be. So there's a million moving parts, and it takes a great deal of effort, energy, commitment, and skill to make sure that those parts are doing exactly what they're supposed to be
Yeah.
doing. So leaders understand that communication is dynamic, and effective leaders, as you will demonstrate and point out today, effective leaders create a healthy communication climate in the workplace. So while what we say, how we say it, how we hear and process communication are all important, it's the leader's responsibility, right? To create the right environment to support effective communication in the workplace. And this begins with what you say are three irrefutable facts about workplace communication. Share those with us.
Yeah, I want to share those three irrefutable facts real quick here, but I'm a little disappointed in you, Raphael, and I'm gonna tell
Okay.
you why.
All right.
I thought, because you do such a great job of helping my fragile self esteem not be not totally dissolve. And I thought you were going to say, Robert, you literally wrote the book on healthy communication, because I literally wrote the book. My doctoral dissertation was on healthy African American family communication. And let me break my arm, pat myself on the back.
That's
But
right. That's
second of
right.
all, I wrote the book Seasoned with Grace, God's Recipe for Healthy Family Communication. And I was expecting you to talk about that. And so since you didn't, I had to just take the last couple of
Oh
minutes and
man.
brag on myself.
You know what that was equivalent of, right?
Uh-huh.
Watching strike three in game seven of the World Series. You gotta swing at it. You can't just look at it. Nobody will be mad at you if you swing and miss. But if you just watch the ball go over the plate from the greatest reliever in history who doesn't walk anybody, who only throws strikes, and I just looked at strike three. Dr. Robert Davis literally wrote the book, not one book, folks, two books on healthy communication, and now he's going to talk about the three irrefutable facts about communication and give us the rundown. So my
I'm gonna give
apologies.
you all right. Here we
I'll
go.
make sure that does not happen again. The ego will be inflated.
Oh yeah, thank you. My ego was just it was just pizzling out. But I want to say congratulations to Dusty Baker. I've always admired him, and he did a phenomenal job with the Astros, man. And so, to all Astro fans, Houston H-Town, as they like to be called, congratulations. All right. So, what are the three irrefutable facts about workplace communication? Number one, everyone communicates. That's right. Everyone communicates. Number two, communication is a thermostat, is a thermometer. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Communication is a thermometer. And what I mean by that, let me back up to number one. Everyone communicates. That just simply means that whether you are mute, you may be deaf, you may use sign language, you may have no way to verbalize words at all, or you may be like me who can't stop talking. Everyone communicates. And so that's just the laws of human beings. We all communicate. Number two, communication is a thermometer. And what I mean by that is, while I have written on effective and healthy family communication, the truth of the matter is communication is an indicator, just like finances. And I'm talking about marriages now. And within marriages, finances, sexuality, sex, child rearing, these things are thermometers. They let you know how hot or cold the relationship is. So communication is a thermometer. But you ready for this? The leader is the thermostat, and you know that the thermostat sits on the wall. Now they sit on our phone. That's right. You can lower and raise the temperature in your house on your smartphone. But the leader is the thermostat that either raises or lowers the temperature, that either makes the temperature in the workplace, the communication temperature in the workplace, healthy, or makes the temperature in the workplace counterproductive. I don't like to use the word unhealthy or dysfunctional. I like to use the word counterproductive. So either the leader makes it productive or counterproductive.
Got you. Okay, so with that in mind, how do we then, with the leader being the thermostat, how do you define what a healthy communication climate is?
Okay, yeah, and that's a very important question. What is a healthy communication climate? And here we go. Healthy communication climate is this: it is revealing yourself and your thinking to another person through direct, mutual, non-reactive communication. Healthy communication is just this: I want to reveal who I am. I want to reveal what I am thinking, and I want to do this in a way that is direct, that is mutual, in other words, give and receive, as well as is non-reactive. In other words, as calm and non-reactive as possible. That's when we can do that, when we can share who we are as well as what our thinking is, without becoming very reactive or emotional or any of those things, and we can be honest and direct and all of that stuff, man, you've hit the bullseye.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so with that said, as far as our definition of what that environment looks like, what are the skill sets that the leader needs to have in order to create that healthy that type of the healthy communication climate in the workplace?
All right, so there are actually 6 of them, and you and I have talked about this. There are 6 skill sets that each leader needs, and this is what I want you to do for me. We're going to list 6 of them here, but in the chat, please be so kind as to list some other ones that you think that we might have missed. So we're going to give you the 6 that we think are important, and this kind of goes to I know I'm jumping ahead of myself here, Raphael, but this is why the support group that we have, the leaders peer support groups, are so important, because we share information, but we recognize that within leaders is additional powerful information, some that comes from studying, but some that comes from life experiences. And so we want to encourage you to share in the Facebook post, on the YouTube comment section. Please share some of the things that you think that we may have missed, as well as your best thinking on this subject, because your thinking helps us to become better leaders as much as we are helping you. I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. I think that's so important. And so let me give those 6, and I'm going to give them one by one and kind of elaborate on them. And you may have some questions for me. I'll answer any questions on each one of them. So okay. The first skill set and it kind of goes into the definition that I just laid out. The first skill set is being able to remain calm and thoughtful and to respond in a non-reactive way. So the number one skill set is just saying, or getting to a place where you say, you know what, I'm going to remain calm and thoughtful. I'm not going to get emotional, hyper, upset, angry, and even if that's what's going on the inside, I'm going to be intentional to make sure that it doesn't dominate the outside. So I'm going to become aware of it. This is what's going on inside of me, and I'm not going to let it dominate the interaction, my sadness or whatever it may be, so that I can, again, set that thermostat, so that I can, help to create a climate where everyone remains calm. Because you think about it as a leader, when we get hyper, and a lot of us have learned to control our voices so that our volume is not high. We even are very good at choosing the right words, but the tone, and people can sense that there's frustration and anger in our eyes. Some people now start bragging about how, oh, I can't hide nothing on my face. Well, good leaders know how to have a good poker face, because they recognize that their facial gestures and other things impact their team. So they're very considerate and thoughtful about that. So that's one of the first skill sets is having, and I'm going to refer to it kind of as the poker face, the emotional poker face of being able to interact without giving away all of the emotions and all of the issues that you're dealing with on the inside and what you're experiencing, so that you can help others to stay in a calm, relaxed environment. And the more relaxed we are, the calmer we are, the easier it is for us to be thoughtful and to think through problems, both productivity issues within the workplace, but also relationship issues as well.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me pipe in and kind of
Yeah.
make a comment and ask and also ask a question here. Their emotion, when we talk about our emotions in this skill set of being able to remain calm and thoughtful, there are times when things sneak up on you.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a meeting, your CFO comes to you and pushes a paper in front of you and tells you we're $700 million under, but we've lost $700 million, something ridiculous like that. I mean, clearly that's when the smoke comes out of your ears, your head, your blood. It's kind of hard to manage emotions a lot of times when things sneak up on you. But can you speak a little bit about how we come to the conversation, the thoughts, the way that we think as we approach a conversation? We know we have to have a difficult conversation, or we know we're going to have a challenging conversation. That poker face, our face generally will always reveal or tip the hand about how we're feeling. And if we come into the conversation preloaded, oh man, I got to deal with this difficult person, or I've got to deal with this nonsense, or they're going to say this, so I'm going to say this, or you kind of come preloaded that way. How does that impact your ability to remain calm and to be able to communicate effectively?
And so, and this is one of the things as we talk about coaching, and even within the support groups that we offer at UnBoxed to Lead, we want to be intentional about thinking about who do we want to show up as? Who are we? Who do we want to reveal to the world, to our workplace, to our families, to our coworkers, to our subordinates? Who do we want to reveal? And when we get a clear picture about that, then we begin to develop strategies within the various relationship system that we're a part of, whether it's the workplace family, the church family, the biological family, the extended family, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to need to do in order to show up that way. And one of the things that is so important in that is not suppressing emotions, but being aware of emotions and managing emotions. So it's not about suppressing your anger, suppressing your sadness, suppressing, your frustration or whatever it may be. It is about being sure that you manage it in a way that you are ultimately trying to fulfill or are ultimately fulfilling your relationship or leadership objective about who you are when you show up. So it's important for you to know. I hope that I'm answering your question. It's important for you to be aware of your emotions, to know what you're feeling, to be able to say, right now, I am feeling this. Right now, I'm feeling that, and whatever this or that may be.
Yeah. Good. Okay, cool. All right. Let's move on to the second skill set here.
So the second skill set is being able to close relationship distance without increasing the level of tension and anxiety. Closing relationship distance. And by the way, several of these points that I'm sharing with you right now, I got from an awesome book by Roberta M. Gilbert. It's called Extraordinary Leadership. Extraordinary Leadership by Roberta M. Gilbert. I want to make sure that I shared that before I get the bejesus suit out of me. All right. So the second skill set.
I thought this was from your hand, seeing as you wrote the book on communication. I didn't think you would have to quote anybody, but I guess being
I had to read the book before I could write the book.
I see.
You can't just up and write a book. You have to actually know what others are thinking.
I can. I'm famous for that. Just all my opinions, all my thinking. Forget about what anybody else is saying. You gotta listen to me.
I've done that so much that when I actually put stuff on writing, I do so much speaking that when I do it in writing, I try to actually do a little research. So she talks about several of these points that I'm bringing out here. And the second one, of course, is being able to close relationship distance without increasing the level of tension or anxiety. And so how do I get close to a person that I'm in a relationship with? And this is communication. How do I get closer to the person without raising their level of anxiety? One of the ways that you raise a level of anxiety is by pursuing someone. So when someone is trying to distance from you, they don't want to be bothered with, they're trying to get away from you, man, you start pursuing that person and you just are going to raise the level of anxiety to the nth degree. So it's about being intentional to not to pursue. And there's some indicators. If I can I just kind of go on for a second here?
Yeah,
there are some major indicators of distancing that we need to be aware of. And one indicator of distancing is when the communication says nothing really important to each other. You're carefully and intentionally avoiding meaningful issues, especially issues that might cause friction. So in other words, you know that there's distance and that your communication is distant when you find yourself walking on eggshells when you're communicating with a person. Mm-hmm. You really want to think through, why am I walking on eggshells whenever I talk to this person? I'm handling them with kid gloves. Another indicator of distance is when you need a third party present to feel comfortable talking with someone. And we all, so I'm Raphael's friend. And John Doe is Raphael's friend, but me and John Doe are not friends. So we need Raphael there so that we can actually communicate. As long as Raphael's in the room, man, we cool. But when you take him out of the picture, man, it's like
Yeah, so I think we've all experienced that awkwardness. Yeah. So John, my name is Jim.
Oh, Jim. Sorry about that. So yeah, but when you realize that, hey, I'm always needing to kind of like have another person in there as a buffer, then that's an indication that there's some relationship distance. There's some communication distance.
I've been in workplace settings like that where you're getting ready to go into a meeting and someone has asked me, can you come in and sit in this meeting with me? Because you could just tell that everything has broken down. Between them and the other individual. So I've seen that. And at that time I had no training in this. I had no understanding of what I was enabling or how to help that person. But I'm sure people listening out there have experienced that, whether they've been on either end of that.
And before I give the third indicator, I just want to say, what are indicators? Indicators are very simple. It's just like when the check engine light comes on your car. It's just an indicator that says something is going on and you need to figure out what that something is.
Yeah.
So, man, I can't communicate with this person, or really have any type of real communication with this person that unless there's a third person around, unless I have the buffer. Okay, right. What's really going on here? Let me think about what's going on inside of me. What is it about this relationship? What am I experiencing? Really try to dig into that so that you can, again, show up and manage yourself in a way that is constructive rather than counterproductive.
Sure.
The last indicator that I want to share is that, or indicator of distance, is feeling uncomfortable discussing your relationship. So we can talk, but we can never talk about our relationship. We can talk about the football game. We can talk about, where we went on vacation, what my family did. We can look at children's pictures and all that stuff. But man, we just know that we never ever are going to have a conversation about our relationship. And I'm not talking about in a romantic way. I'm just talking
No,
about
no, no. Yeah.
anything relative to our one-to-one relationship. We don't talk about that. We talk about everything else. You may know everything about the person, where they were born, raised, lived, every book that they've read. Y'all laugh, eat lunch together every day. But man, y'all never actually can. And it's not always appropriate to, but you can't. That's the thing I want you to hone in on. You can't have a conversation about y'all's relationship because it's just too difficult. That's a clear indicator that there is distance in the relationship. And a great leader is able to look at those indicators and then to be intentional about developing strategies and modifying how they behave in order to bring the relationship together, and to use communication to bring the relationship closer together.
Got it. Got it. That's heavy stuff, man. I mean, you're taking me. I mean, you're just my entire professional, family, friends, all of my social relationships just flash before my eyes. Especially the part about pursuing. I think that was like 90% of every girlfriend I've ever had. So that answers a lot, explains a lot of how I was able to raise anxiety through pursuing. But it's that way. It's that way in workplace relationships as well, especially for people like us who have this insatiable need to be liked. And
Yes.
if you're struggling with that, and this person just doesn't like you, and you find yourself just pushing, going back to that first indicator, just kind of pushing and pursuing and raising anxiety, because you just got to know, why don't you like me? What is it about me that you don't like? And how can we fix this without actually having a real strategy of how to address that? So we don't have to go into that, but that certainly comes to mind when you're talking about these indicators and about raising the level of anxiety to close that distance.
Yeah. I was watching Queen Phoenix in Gladiator when he was talking to his father, and he said, "Man, you never loved me." And I mean, man, when he said, I looked at that list of virtues and I noticed that I didn't have any that was on that list, but I have my own virtues. I have ambition. I have courage, not on the battlefield, maybe not on the battlefield.
He gives the thumbs down, and there you go. Yeah.
but it was amazing just at how much he longed for his father's approval. And even in that scene, you can kind of see him pursuing his father's approval until finally the only way that he could manage it was by killing his father. He could not.
Yeah.
The tension was so great that all he could do was kill. And sometimes when we see, I know I'm giving a lot, but sometimes when we see people who are obnoxious and they are just seem to be, always sabotaging relationships, we think to ourselves, here is a person that doesn't need relationships. And it's actually just the opposite. You're looking at someone who is desperate for relationships, desperate to be in communication, in commune with others. But for whatever reason, they are self-sabotaging because they are so afraid of how that relationship is going to ultimately turn sour. So they want to have the control of sabotaging it themselves. That's what you see an awful lot. But those people are very much emotionally fused with others, even when they pretend that they're not emotionally fused with others. So that's the first two skill sets. I'm gonna jump on to number 3 because I know we're against the clock.
Yep.
Number 3 is the third skill set is being able to observe relationship dynamics, especially the part that I'm playing in the relationship. And I know that I sound like a broken record because I'm always talking about the importance of understanding relationship systems.
Yeah.
It is so important to be able to see what is going on in a relationship, to understand what is behind. And I don't like to use the word why per se, but to really understand the relationship process and the relationship patterns that are unfolding right before your eyes. But most of all, the part that I'm playing in it. What am I doing to contribute to this? Because a lot of times we say, I didn't do anything. Man, when you can't see the part that you're playing, even when you are the most innocent person that the world has ever created, but when you can't understand the part that you're playing in the relationship dynamic, man, you are in a world of trouble. So it is so important. Great leaders, and I was talking to our mutual friend Stephen Brooks the other day, and I was talking to him about how I admire, and he's never, he never did any study in family systems or anything. But I've always admired that he knows how to read a room. It's just instinctive to him. Man, that guy can read a room like nobody's business. And he can just kind of tell what's going on, who is in disagreement, what relationships are strained and frayed. And you're like, man, I have conversations with him, and he and I will be in the same meeting, and he just has like a whole book of data that he collected just by observing what was going on. And I'm like, I didn't catch that. What? Huh? You're like, wow. And it's just natural. But that's one of the things. So if it doesn't come natural to you like it does for my friend Stephen Brooks, then what you need to do is you need to actually be trained to work on it. That's what I did. I say, man, Brooks is just lapping this place with me. So maybe I need to do some study and research so I can gain some of the skill set that he seems to have been born with.
I'm RP Soriano here with Dr. Davis, and you're watching Unboxed. We're continuing our conversation today on the topic of mastering effective leadership communication. Robert, you're taking us through the skill sets needed to create an environment to support effective communication. You've run through the first three that I have to say I have found quite profound. They really, really speak to, so far you're really, really speaking to the humanness of what it means to communicate and the skills needed to communicate effectively. So let's move on to the last three skill sets and take us on from there.
Yeah. So when we talk about creating a healthy communication climate within the place, of course, one is being able, as I'm gonna go through them real quick, is being able to remain calm and thoughtful. Of course, number two is being able to manage distance and closeness. Number three is being able to observe the part that I'm playing in this whole dynamic. Because most of us who are watching and listening to this right now, you know not to cuss people out, not to yell, you know how to be selective with your words. If you don't even have that down, you're just totally incapable of managing yourself in relationships, then this is really not the show for you. This is for leaders who are already high level, and now we want to take you to the next level of your leadership. That's what it really is, unboxing it even more. And so that's I want to make sure you understand that I'm assuming that you have some basic relationship skills going into this thing. And now we're polishing and refining it. So here's number four. The fourth skill set is being able to take what I call a clear I position. And that is simply, this is what I will do. This is what I will not do. This is what I am responsible for. This is what I am not responsible for. This is what I think. This is what I believe. This is how I feel. And a person who can do that, and going back to number one, do it in a calm, thoughtful way. But man, that ability to be clear and around your I position, not speaking for others, but speaking only for self. Speaking clearly, thoughtfully for self, man, it has a profound impact on the entire communication culture, the entire communication climate of the entire organization. Just that one person stepping up. And if you think about it, what is it about Dr. King that we remember so much? Now, I've done studies on Dr. King, so I understood his philosophy. And I have a better understanding in some ways of his philosophical approach to Black empowerment and Black liberation. But one of the things that we all know about him was this man took a clear I position. This is what I think about how the races should get along. This is how I think about the war in Vietnam. This is how I think about economics and how America should structure itself economically to empower both Black, white, blacks, and poor whites. This is how I think about it. And the fact that he was able to do that, when you watch him in interviews, when you watch him interacting with others, he was able to kind of bring the temperature down with everyone that was around him. And it was because he took clear positions. It was not a lot of attacking and you. It was about This is what I am going to do. This is what I believe. This is how I think. This is what I'm taking responsible for. This is what I will not accept, what I will not tolerate. It's that strong I position. And that's what we remember about Dr. King. That here is a man, we say here is a man that stood on principle. What we're really saying is here is a man that was clear about who he was and was able to share that.
Yeah, and not to overstate the obvious here, but that's the kind of thing that anyone looks for in a leader. You're not just rudderless. You're not clear where the leader stands or the direction that he wants to take the organization or the movement where he or she or they are trying to go. That clear communication not only sets the tone, like you're saying, just for the entire organization, but it just sets it on an individual level, one-to-one. You're clear that this is where this person stands. Like you said, they've made it a clear statement. This is what I will do. This is what I will not do. And when that is communicated effectively, the person on the other side of that is able to, to have probably a more positive reaction and experience when they're not left, when it's not ambiguous, if you will.
The fifth position, I'm gonna move on. The fifth position is being able to communicate in as simple a way as possible. And I tell you this much right here: they say confession is good for the soul. Number 5, this fifth skill set is my weakest skill set. Is being able to explain in as simple a way as possible. And so, a couple of things that I encourage leaders to do is try not to bug people or repeat a message more than twice a week. Be patient and wait and try to restate a message that was received in a negative way or that, elicited a reactive response. I think I may have said that incorrect. I remember one time in our task force meeting, a young lady made a statement and I responded, and I was very inartful. And I just paused the meeting and I said, that was so dismissive, the way that I said that. And that was not my intention. I apologize for being so dismissive right then. Let me restate what I was trying to say. Mm-hmm. And then to restate it, to take that deep breath, to clear your thought, and the young lady was offended. And it took her a second to get, and I would have been offended too if had I been on the other side of the table. I would have been offended. Was not my intention, but the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. But to be able to reset when you do state something that is negative or that causes a reactive response, and then
I think you said something too there about being patient. And I think that's very important. That's something that I struggle with. Is I may have such a strong position or strong feelings about a direction that I want to go, and I am shocked when the person on the other side does not see my point of view. And I've recently been, even with my children, my wife, even in our working relationships, I've whatever it is that I'm feeling strongly about, I try to at least have some bit of detachment there. But most of all, what I tell myself is, and we've talked about this in previous shows, and you've talked about this, is it's okay for the other person to have their reaction. You need to make room for that. And it doesn't mean that you need to be prepared of how am I going to convince them? How am I going to argue with them? But let's let them have their reaction, and let's be open to that. Because once you open the door to start your communication, or once you start your communication, you open the door. You have to be willing to receive that. You can't just say, well, that's what I said and I'm standing by it and I'm not moving from that. You have to let them have their reaction and to be patient, especially like you said, if you've said something that has been that has caused an offense or has been said, without much thought, whatever the case may be. You have to let them have that response, and you have to own it and deal with it. And good for you for recognizing it, in full. Most people can't stop the train once it's gone off the once it's gone off the cliff. So at least you were able to do that. So that's a good example of that.
I appreciate that. Another thing is that it helps us to keep things simple. Is to try is to do to use storytelling. Man, people connect with stories. People understand the movies do it so well. And then try to use humor as much as possible. Not to be obnoxious with it, but to use humor when it's clear that things are getting a little tense. Use appropriate humor to try to diffuse when things, when the situation may become a little strained, a little tense, or whatever it may be.
Okay.
Okay, and the sixth skill set. You ready for me to go to the sixth one?
Yeah, I'm ready
Or
for you.
are you ready?
I had some audio issues. You cut out just a little bit, so I'm just catching up. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and that's the great thing about the internet. When it's great, it's great, and when it's bad, it's bad. And we'll let the church roll on. The sixth skill set is being able to stay connected. And, we talked about that a little bit before, but being able to stay connected, and that is great leaders are able to stay connected with people who are emotional and reactive. You know, even great parents are able to. When the child is throwing a temper tantrum, well, I tell you what, you just sit here and throw a temper tantrum, and when you calm down, you let me know and we'll talk. Being able to stay connected even when a person is in the middle of a meltdown. And connected in a way that's not there antagonizing or aggravating. But I don't have time. I'm not going to deal with this. I don't have time to deal with this. Man, that is such the easiest thing to do. I don't have time to deal with this. But being able to stay connected even when and developing strategies on how I stay connected when someone is having having emotional challenges. And we all have a bad day. We all do.
Yeah.
And how do I interact? Because listen, we love for people to be patient with us, man, when we're having a bad day. And we have such a difficult time being patient with others when they have a bad day. Okay, so this person is having a bad day. They're not receiving this well. How do I stay connected with them regardless? How do I stay connected with people who, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that is definitely challenging. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you talked
No.
about the temper tantrum with kids, I mean, I've got two young daughters, and my 6-year-old can be prone to some explosive emotional outbursts that are all. I mean, I've never seen her have an outburst that wasn't justified. That
Yeah.
wasn't warranted. I could totally see why she would have that. And I remember a few times, like you said, she would have these meltdowns, and my reaction would be, I don't have time for this. Forget it. You're just going to have to deal with it. But there was a time when I started to realize when this was happening more often. And the
Yeah.
explosions they were going from small firecracker explosions to TNT to supernova. And I was like, man,
Yeah.
she's going to consume the entire planet if I don't find a better way to deal with this. And
Yeah.
I remember one meltdown she had. She closed the door. She didn't want to be bothered. And I knocked on the door. I came in and I said, I don't know how to fix this, but I am not going anywhere. I am here with you. And I lied
Mm.
down in the bed and I told her, when you're ready, I can hold you. We can try to work through this together. But I basically tried to communicate as I'm not judging you. I'm not upset with you, but I am not letting you go through this alone. Because that was the thing she said, leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. And I just said, I am not letting you go through this by yourself. I am here with you. I'm the adult. I'm supposed to be there to support you. I feel like I'm going to lose my mind too because I don't know
Yeah.
what to do, but I'm not letting you go through this by yourself. I am here with you.
Well, that was actually very, very
And that's
that was very deep, man. Thank you. Very deep. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
so
sharing that.
I think that I know you can't always do that with adults, but I think there's a way to communicate that, hey, we're all having a meltdown, but you're not alone in this. I'm not just going to forsake the relationship. I'm not just going to abandon it. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to tell you you were wrong. I'm not going to condemn you and all of those kinds of things. But we have to make this work. You know,
Yeah.
if this doesn't work, nothing works. So we have to make it work. We have to, I just we got to be there. Okay, sorry. So go ahead,
Yeah.
continue.
No, but you hit the nail. So how as a leader, I need to stay connected with people who are emotional and reactive. A word that we love throwing around, toxic. I
Yeah.
need, they're toxic people on your team. I need to stay connected with them. I need to stay connected with people who I disagree with and who disagree with me. How do I remain connected? This is how
It's
you
so
create.
easy to just freeze those people out, Robert. That's a lot of what we
Man,
end
it's
up
easy.
doing, right? We just freeze those people out. We just say, we're not going to even address them. We're not going to acknowledge them. We're not going to make eye contact with them. We're just going to freeze them out and make them feel as uncomfortable as possible. And I can't think of a time when that has ever been productive or has ever worked in my leadership experience.
And I want you to understand what we're doing here. We're not telling you how to create the perfect sentence when you're communicating with your team. We're telling you how to create a climate in your workplace by being intentional to stay connected with someone who's reactive, to stay connected with someone that you disagree with and who disagrees with you, and to stay connected with people who gossip about you. There are
Mhm.
people who gossip, and you're like, man, I know you're gossiping, but I'm gonna, and it hurts, especially some people that you looked out for, people that you could have let go of, people that you could have
Mhm.
written up or whatever it may be, man. And you didn't, and you're like, man, are you serious? And this is how you repay me? Okay, my little feelings are hurt, but how am I going to stay connected? And so I individually need to develop plans for this. But think about this, Raphael, because I want to talk, and I believe you do as well. I want to talk a little bit about unbox to lead. But think about this. Think about if, as a leader, you have a support group of other high level leaders like yourself, CEOs, executives, and executive directors of nonprofits, that you can have these type of conversations with, that you can say, hey, listen, how how do I stay connected with someone who I know is gossiping about me? Do I report them to the board and have them fired because they're saying things to other employees behind my back? How do I stay connected with someone who becomes emotional and what do you find effective? And to imagine having a cohort of other leaders that you can have these type of conversations with, and that you can glean and grow with, and can solve problems with. Um, that is a phenomenal experience to have. And all these skill sets are things that you have to think about as a leader developing, but you also have to put yourself in a place so that you have mentors and coaches and peers who are helping you to develop these skill sets as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're exactly right. I wanted to kind of give you a chance to talk about the leaders peer support community. So thank you for discussing that. I think the whole catalyst for that, or the whole reason why we want to just throw that in there, is because these broadcasts are great, but there's only so much that we can deal with. And I end up in these broadcasts making them go a little bit longer than what they should be, because I'm kind of trying to peel back some more layers and
Mm.
get a little bit more into the things that we would touch and experience in the leaders peer support community. So the leaders peer support community is a much more structured experience. It's professionally facilitated cohort where you are able to interact with other leaders about these very things, and there's more learning around these very things, and all of this stuff ties together very well. You were talking about how do you maintain closeness or stay connected to someone who's gossiping about you, right? Like, how do you do that? Well, we talked about in one of our previous broadcasts about the relationship, the workplace relationship system, and that one of the things that people tend to do is seek help. That's one of the things that is
Yeah.
natural to us, and one of the ways we seek help is by gossiping and talking about our situation to other people. The leader, when they understand the workplace relationship system, and they understand the importance of what we're talking about today, creating that a healthy communication environment. These is where you start to kind of put the pieces together, but you can't do it all through these broadcasts. So we do encourage people to sign up to learn more about the Leaders Peer Support Group and become part of our become part of the cohort. And you can learn more at www.unboxedtolead.com. Before we wrap up the show, Dr. Davis, is there anything else you want to add or say, or is there anything more that I need to do to boost your ego and make you feel better about yourself before we sign off? Just let me know.
Yeah, now that everybody knows the emperor has no clothes, I'm trying to figure out how do I walk back by exposing how fragile my self-esteem is. But on a serious note, one of the things that is so important to understand in entering into how do I create a healthy workplace communication climate, one of the things to understand is this is not an overnight process.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
These are skill sets that have to be developed. It's like a 12-year-old going onto the basketball court and saying, I want to be LeBron James or Steph Curry or whoever it may be. It doesn't work like that. You're
Right.
talking about individuals that have put in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours just practicing over and over and over again, little small techniques and whatnot. And that's the same thing about leadership. And I want to share, again, another shameless plug. That's what the Unboxed to Lead Leaders Peer Support Community is about. It is about leaders coming together and building those skill sets, iron sharpening iron. I encourage you to check it out. I encourage you to take advantage of the one-to-one coaching, the mastermind group, so that you can really begin working on your own personal and professional life goals and achieving what you want for your life, not just for the organization, but for your personal life. I want you to check it out so that you can see how a support group of like-minded leaders who are dealing with many of the same issues can actually, through a support group format, help encourage and problem solve and work through things together, so that individually each one is being the most effective within their workplace. I really want you to check that out, because leadership is a journey, not a destination. Leadership is a journey, not a destination. And I hope that you will continue to journey with Raphael and I, and continue to journey with Unboxed.
All right. Well, that's a good place to leave it. And so that will bring us to the end of our broadcast today. The Unboxed broadcast is produced by Bobby Davis Jr., graphics and video design provided by Damon Mace, and marketing and promotion by John Sedano. Remember to visit our website at www.unboxedtolead.com. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano, and we look forward to seeing you the next Unboxed broadcast, where we will help you unbox the power and the potential of your leadership. Be well.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed, 2, lead.com. Again, that's unboxed, 2, to lead.com.